Welcome, everyone, to the Credible Nerds podcast. We are here to talk more about one of our favorite franchises, Indiana Jones. And my name is Justin. I'll be your host, along with my trusty co-hosts, Blake and Nathan. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Hey, everyone.
I'm doing wonderful.
Awesome.
You went golfing today.
I went golfing today.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we've been talking Indiana Jones for a couple weeks now, probably a month now, and we've reviewed Raiders of the Lost Ark previously, so make sure you go back and watch or listen to that review that we did. This movie was released on May 24th, 1989, and this year is the 34th anniversary of the film. And so it's been a while. It's been out for a while. So we will be talking spoilers, and if you haven't seen it, sorry, you've had plenty of time.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. And initially, the film made over $474 million worldwide, and it became the 11th highest grossing film of all time that year.
Now, I think if I recall, that was the same year that the first Batman with Michael Keaton came out, and it beat Batman, that movie.
It beat out Batman for worldwide,
but
Batman was the highest earner in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
With Indy in second place and Lethal Weapon 2 as third place.
Oh.
It's a good set of movies.
Yeah.
It was a good year.
Yeah, great year.
So, but yeah, it did really well. And however, it's the third in gross earnings in the franchise behind Crystal Skull and then Raiders.
Does that factor in for inflation? Mm-hmm. No way.
The Temple of Doom made more after adjusting for inflation. So Last Crusade is the least grossing amount.
That's interesting, considering that, the internet would
disagree.
Would disagree as far as which movie is the best, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it did win an Academy Award for Best Sound Effects Editing. It was nominated for, I think, 3 or 4, and that's the only one it won. Good sound effects.
Yeah.
Stories by George Lucas and Menno Meyjes. He wrote The Color Purple. And the screenplay was by Jeffrey Beam, who also wrote Lost Boys, Inner Space, and coincidentally Lethal Weapon 2.
Oh.
So he had a good
right.
year.
Yeah, he did.
So this was like the second or third stab at the story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
He went through a lot of revisions.
Yeah. The first one was he was going to fight a ghost.
Yeah, in a haunted castle.
No.
Which makes Crystal Skull feel a lot more believable.
Holy cow. I did not know that.
The other one, I saw the other one was the Monkey King.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember much about it, but I remember that title.
Yeah.
I think that's where the castle, when they go when Indy goes with Elsa to the castle, that was kind of the basis of the haunted castle. They kind of slipped that in a little bit.
They already reserved the castle.
Yeah, so they had to use it.
Might as well use it.
Yeah. So,
You guys are pulling my chain. There's no way that's true.
Look it up on the internet.
No
it's true.
way.
And I think there was a Young Indiana Jones Chronicles episode about a haunted castle with Christopher Lee.
Oh, really? Wow.
Interesting.
I don't know if Indy fought a ghost. I don't remember, but I think that was Christopher Lee's episode. So, but the time frame is set largely in 1938. Indiana searches for his father. This is the kind of the overview, the snapshot. Set largely in 1938, Indiana searches for his father, a Holy Grail scholar who has been kidnapped and held hostage by the Nazis while on a journey to find the Holy Grail. So, and the time frames, Temple of Doom, we've talked about, was a prequel. It happened in December of 1935. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Peruvian temple opening sequence was May 1936. So like 6 months later from Temple of Doom. Getting Marion and the Lost Ark Adventures, end of July, 1st of August, 1936. So a couple months later.
Okay.
Last Crusade, the Cross of Coronado opening sequence in Utah, the Utah flashback, was 1912. And then they jumped forward to the current time, in the movie, January 1938, near Portugal on a ship.
So that was only a couple years later, huh?
Yeah. It was like,
timeline-wise?
Yeah. Let's see, what was it? So the whole thing started December 30, 1935. And then January 1938, Last Crusade takes place.
So he did all of that in the time it took you to finish your basement, Nate.
My basement's not finished.
Nate Carlson in the unfinished basement.
Yeah, so this trilogy takes place over a 25-month time frame. So just over 2 years.
Crazy.
And then, like the last in Raiders, the Nazis are pre-World War II because World War II started September 1st,
Yeah.
1939.
Yeah.
So like
The war hadn't started, but they were obviously the movement, the group, the political party, the Nazi party was
in effect.
in effect and pretty prevalent, and had already done some things. Probably,
Yeah.
I know that they had. Anyways, we're getting off the track here, but yeah. Anyways,
Okay. So then Crystal Skull takes place in 57, which is a 12-year gap in between Last Crusade and that movie. So what happened? You know, it's a great time to have more adventures. If they choose to revisit Indy, you can do a lot of stuff in that 12-year gap. If this trilogy took place in two years. So.
yeah, presumably with a different actor,
Yeah. Unless they have some really good de-aging software.
which that sounds looking like
Yeah,
Dial of Destiny.
like they use that a bit.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I think they from the little blurbs I've seen, I think they took existing footage and just kind of I don't know if they superimposed his face on his own face or if they just kind of like took existing footage, kind of like with Star Wars and Carrie Fisher. They kind of took footage from another movie to put it in the movie that they had made after she had passed. If that was what they did, because some of the trailer that they've shown and that younger Indiana Jones, it looks familiar, like it's from another movie that we've seen. But of course, that wouldn't make sense. You would think they would maybe use footage from that didn't make the movie. Who knows? But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see in a couple of weeks when that comes out.
Yeah.
What I do appreciate about this and the prequel, because we kind of talked about it a little bit before, that I never really put much thought to it, is that you do kind of see a character progression. Because in Temple of Doom, you know, he's talking about, you know, fame and fortune and glory. And, you know, I didn't think of it at this time, but you may have gotten the impression, and maybe everyone did get this and I didn't, that he was never going to return those stones, that he was going to go get them and keep them for himself.
Right.
But something happened in that movie. You know, he was going for the diamond at the beginning, and then he didn't get it. Now there's supposed to be jewels or diamonds in these stones. And maybe through that experience, his character develops and he's like a little more sympathetic. And he's just like, we're going to get out of here, and we're all of us. And he gets the kids out. And then you see in Raiders of the Lost Ark, kind of that, again, more growth, more sympathy. And then we come full circle in Last Crusade.
Yeah.
With that interaction with his dad.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought of it that way.
Yeah, I hadn't either, but in preparation of this, I thought about it. Interesting thing I did also see is that in Last Crusade, he and Sean Connery are only 12 years apart in real age in this movie.
So he was a father young.
Yeah, he started. It was a different time though.
Yeah. Those early 1800s. You know?
Different times. We can't
They
judge.
didn't live very long. You had
Yeah.
to start early.
Yeah, people die when they're in their 20s.
Yeah. So the prologue of the film is set in 1912 in Utah. Indy is a Boy Scout and on a scout trip as a 13-year-old. We were just talking about a scout trip for 13-year-olds,
That's
right? 12 and
right.
13-year-olds, and how fun they are.
Yeah. I don't know if Ashton would have responded the same way to that situation.
Do you think he would have gone after the cross?
He would have been back at camp. He
Okay.
would have been back at camp playing frisbee or something.
So is he only supposed to be 13 years old in that scene?
Yeah, he was born in 1899.
Really?
Wow.
This is 1912. So they're off exploring, which scouts love to do. And I noticed he's a life scout. with the merit or the rank
yeah,
advancement.
good
badge.
eye.
Oh yeah,
Good
I never
eye.
paid it. I didn't
The
notice.
red one with the heart.
Yeah, that's the life.
Isn't
scout.
there a time thing? You can't you be? Don't you have to be like 14 to be
Yeah.
alive?
Yeah, 'cause you do.
Maybe those rules changed.
Yeah,
Yeah, come on. It was a different
it was
time.
1912.
It's
It's true.
1912.
It's true.
There was no minimum service before you could get rank advance.
Yeah,
Boy, we're really
Yeah.
showing our
Yeah.
colors.
we're not making the hour mark here, but
Yeah.
No.
it's fine.
And how do you guys know so much about scouting?
We've been scouts.
Yeah, we've been scouts.
We've gone scout camping. But he goes off searching, him and his buddy. I can't remember his name. But
The dude that can't ride a horse.
yeah,
Yeah.
they go after, they find some grave diggers, or I guess they're not graves, but some fortune hunters. And they find the cross of Coronado while they're spying on him. And we see this guy, fake Indy is what I call him.
Fake Indy.
Has the hat, the coat, the pants, the scruff. So he's credited as Fedora in the movie.
Oh.
Interesting. But he's like, oh, that belongs in a museum. So he steals it from them, and there's a chase that ensues. And this is when he gets on the train. We have all the mishaps on the train, and he falls into a vat of snakes, and we kind of that's where he gets his fear of snakes from, because up until that point he was fine with them. And he gets the chin scar with the whip as he falls into the lion trailer and has to fend off the lion. And then he runs home to meet his dad, and then he finds out, hey, these guys were paid by someone to find that, and you got to give it back. And so then fake Indy tells him, you lost today, kid, but you don't have to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good line.
Yeah. So then it fast forwards to 1938. But in that flashback, what do you guys think of that flashback with River Phoenix? Just that whole adventure that he had. What do you guys think?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, down in southern Utah, you've got the arches and everything, but and River Phoenix, he's just an interesting actor in with his own story and everything. But the way it was filmed, the way that just kind of the sequence across the train and all the little Easter eggs along the way.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Well, this scene, this prologue sets up kind of the pacing of this whole movie, which is just like there's go, and it's great. I loved it. It's the only kind of complaint I had about that whole opening scene was the rhinoceros horn. I was like, okay, that's you could tell that's some guy, prop guy with a prop, just kind of like moving it around, and I'm like, that's. But again, this is a world where there's still a lot of practical effects are happening, right? And so it was great. But and we get introduced to basically all of the key marks of Indiana Jones. We get the whip, we get the fear of snakes. The fedora gives him his fedora, and he's got the leather jacket. So within that one experience, we basically get the origin story of Indiana Jones as we see him in the movies.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done with all the things that you guys said, and just it was fun to see another side of him. Like where did this guy come from? Because he's always this tough guy, this mysterious guy. We don't know much about his past. We knew that he dated Marion and they broke up, but then here we get like you guys said, the origin story, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
this set the tone, or this kind of created it was the impetus for the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles after this part here. So
is Indiana Jones from southern Utah? Was he?
He was born in New Jersey.
How did he end up in southern Utah, you think? Living with his dad, without a mom.
His mom died at this point.
Maybe he was just they're here temporarily on
sabbatical.
That house, the mailbox on the house looked pretty old.
Yeah.
It said Jones on it, but I don't know. Well, and he was in there kind of working in his diary. Maybe it was, or his journal. So maybe it was, I don't know, him doing research, and I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's a good point.
Yeah. We saw the dog.
We saw Indiana.
The dog Indiana.
Yeah.
They didn't say the name, so assuming that was the one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So fast forward to 1938, he has finally tracked down the Cross of Coronado to get it back, and he finds the same guy that had paid for the treasure hunters to find it. It's the guy with the white suit and the red boutonniere, which coincidentally is what he wears in Temple of Doom when he walks in. That's into the club Obi-Wan to get the diamond, right? He has the same outfit, white suit, red flower boutonniere. I thought that was interesting. Yeah. So, and he recovers it. The ship blows up. He's the only one that survives.
Yeah, that went south fast.
Yeah. And he finally has a successful opening quest. The previous two failed. This is kind of a flip-flop because the previous two opening quests failed, but then he succeeded at the end.
Yeah.
But this one, he succeeds in the beginning, but doesn't get the grail at the end.
Oh, wait. What?
At least that's what I've heard.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
Don't
We're watching as we go.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting flip. But so you talked about character consistency a little bit ago. And I think I agree with you. It's pretty consistent throughout the movies. Do you have an opinion on that, Blake, or thoughts on that?
No, I think so. Well, and you kind of mentioned earlier in the Temple of Doom when he seemed to be focused on fortune and fame, but then when in the opening sequence he says, this belongs in a museum.
Yeah.
And I think last time you were kind of saying, well, maybe fortune and fame to him is the accolades of finding this thing and getting it to the right place or whatever. But yeah, I think that, like that character has, it established it. It was consistent all the way through. And you kind of go, oh yeah, now I get why he's doing what he's doing. And it even kind of lays the groundwork, his dad has him speak in Latin and things like that. So
yeah.
Anyway, pretty consistent, pretty good.
Yeah. One thing I noted, 16 months after Raiders, Marion is already out of the picture and Indy has moved on. And we know that Marion had a child during that time, I'm assuming. So that's interesting. I don't think we'll ever get that story. I don't know if we need it, but
yeah.
So, and we liked River Phoenix. Too bad he wasn't able to continue in his role.
Yeah.
In more ways than one. So.
Yeah. I know that Harrison Ford worked with him in The Mosquito Coast.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how he got, Harrison Ford recommended that they bring him in for this role.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
As a result of their working together in that movie, which is another great movie.
Yeah. I really like that one.
Yeah.
So, all right. Henry Jones Sr. We're introduced to him for the first time, played by Sean Connery. The original James Bond, which this series was kind of inspired by.
Yeah, I love that. They were kind of basically always wanted to make a James Bond movie. Well, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
We got James Bond in the movie, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this was the end of his career. I think he almost didn't want to make it because he was kind of on his way out, but he saw the script and was like, okay, this is good. I'll do this. But the character, the Holy Grail lore is his life's work. He's been working on it the whole time. We see it in the beginning and then at the end. But he seems kind of an absent, busy father. I think Indiana referred to that later, that he was never there. He felt like the relationship with his father wasn't as strong as it could be. But he's very smart, very academic. And he seems to be a disapproving father with Indy.
Yeah.
Not only in the beginning, but later on.
He's an academic. He's Dr. Jones, right? Mm-hmm. We got two Dr. Jones.
Yeah.
Was he an archaeologist or was he more of just a historian?
He
professor,
was a historian professor type.
Teaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting that they had, this relationship was the kind of the centerpiece, one of the centerpieces of this film, while previous ones were the relationships with Marion and then with Short Round and what's their name? Willie Scott.
Yeah. There you go.
And here it's the dad.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's different about this film. What did you guys think about having this father-son relationship play out? Did that work for you? Did you like it? What do you think?
I loved it. I loved Sean Connery. I loved seeing him in this playing this role, which was not a typical role we see him play. He's the alpha male, right?
Yeah.
And to see him play in this kind of character was great. And I think they played off each other like they really were father and son in real life. I mean, it was great.
Well, and it was fun, like in all the other movies, Indiana Jones is in charge. He's the guy. And now he's got his dad, his overbearing dad, kind of there disapproving of everything he does. And they're just back and forth bickering. And it's a treat to watch.
I love that. There's he's at times he's doing things he's turning, looking at him to get his approval hey, did you just see what I just did? Wasn't that awesome? And then half the time his dad's like, what did you just do? And then the other time, and then the other half the time he's just like, you are.
This isn't archaeology.
You are the same kid. You haven't changed since you were a little kid. So that's funny to me.
Yeah. We have a James Bond actors connection. Sean Connery was Bond, like we said. Alison Doody, who played Elsa Snyder, was a Bond girl.
Oh.
From Pierce Brosnan's A View to a Kill.
Really? A View to a Kill?
Mm-hmm. A View to a Kill?
No,
that's
Roger Moore.
Okay, maybe I wrote it down wrong.
But I bet it is a Pierce Brosnan one.
It's probably Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
You just got
GoldenEye maybe, or I don't know what ones he was in.
Mm-hmm. But look that up real quick.
Yeah.
I thought
she could pull off a Bond girl.
Got to be credible, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Roger Moore was A View to a Kill.
Yeah, and I don't think that was Grace Jones.
No.
Okay. She was in A View to a Kill.
She what?
She must have been.
She was young.
She must have been a little girl.
She was born in 1966. And A View to a Kill was 85.
66.
There you go.
So she was 19.
19 years old. Wow.
Mm-hmm. She must. So what does that mean? She was a Bond girl. She must have been just I think in A View to a Kill,
I don't remember that movie.
I think that movie, he goes to a place where it's Christopher Walken is the bad guy, and he's got this property, and it's got all these horses. They're selling horses, and there's women who are master karate fighters.
We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to watch. I haven't watched that show since.
Well, she was named Jenny Flex.
Yeah,
Jenny
think
Flex,
she's one
that's
of
a Bond girl name.
I think she's one of the the hench women, I guess you will, because there were a bunch of women who were they're assassin, tough people.
So that's a Roger Moore film.
We'll have to see, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, that's definitely a Roger Moore film.
Okay. So Dr. Elsa Schneider was an Austrian professor who was searching for the Grail as well, working with the Nazis. Indy's love interest, or at least his booty call.
Yeah. Whoa.
For a short time. She ends up being a spy and deceives and betrays Indiana Jones, as well as the father.
One thing I noticed about her character is the moment he sees her, and he's just full throttle, man.
Mm-hmm. He liked her.
They land in Venice. He turns and looks at her, and from that moment, he is pursuing her.
Yeah.
He's
got my father's eyes, and you've got the rest of me. Whatever he says.
He didn't know her for 10 seconds before he was hitting on her.
She was pretty attractive.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But which
one
was
in Venice, right?
The complete opposite of Willie Scott, right? Mm. He didn't hit on her the moment he saw her. He almost stabbed her with a fork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, because of the Indy's father-son relationship, there wasn't much time for a love interest storyline, but we kind of got it here. There was some chemistry between them. They flirted. They ended up sleeping together later on. And I think she liked him.
Yeah, and there was that scene, a good scene when they kiss, and he says, I don't even know what either of them said, but it was also absurd, but kind of the back and forth, and he kisses her. He's like, I do things the way I want to do, and then he kisses her, and then she says, how dare you, and kisses him back. And
hey,
that was a fun.
I don't like fast women. And I hate arrogant men.
Yeah.
Ah, Venice.
That's how Marie and I talk to each other.
I don't think she really. Whoa. I don't think she liked. I don't think she liked him liked him. I think she was attracted to him. He was attracted to her, but I don't think they ever really, like you described it. I would put it kind of in that category. Like I think she
Just
was
a hookup.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah, they didn't spend that much time together to like develop a relationship.
no.
So it was just kind of surface level attraction.
Yeah, that's what I would chalk it up to.
Okay.
Because she seems like the kind of person who would get together with a guy to get a bigger objective, which is pretty much evident in the movie as as we find out she sleeps with with his dad, right? Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, she has daddy issues.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that just cracked me up.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Yeah, when they're tied to the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's whispering in Indy's ear.
Oh, I was dying laughing.
And Sean Connery's all, thank you.
Yeah. It was quite
nice.
It was quite nice. I just love that they're sitting on the Zeppelin plane, and he's like, I'm just as good as the next guy. And he's like, I was the next guy. Then I would have like, oh, that's cringe beyond cringe right there.
Yeah.
But still hilarious.
Yeah.
That's good. Sala and Marcus Brody are back in supporting roles. Good to see them again. Sala's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brody, I don't know, we didn't really Marcus Brody. We didn't see him much in Raiders, but here has more time.
Yeah.
He's kind of like fish out of water.
He's
all the time.
He's fish never been in water.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. I love that
he was
they
fun,
had him.
Though. Yeah.
I love that they included him in the whole thing. I thought it was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the whole scene when, they're talking about Brody and he's like, he'll blend in. He speaks 7 languages. And then it pans over to him.
Does anyone speak English? Yeah. The gags in this movie, they all work. They're all funny. Everything's great. This movie just hits fires on all pistons from beginning to end.
It does.
It's just a great ride.
Mm.
Yeah.
He kind of reminded me of C-3PO, Brody.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Just kind of annoying.
Oh. Do you think C-3PO is annoying?
Sometimes.
Oh, all right.
A lot of times, yeah. But the villain was Landon Donovan, an American who aligned with the Nazis, traitor. He had his motivations, but I didn't really find him interesting as like some of the other ones we've had.
Yeah, he certainly didn't take.
What do you guys think?
He doesn't take on like. He's supposed to be the main, kind of the main. I mean, I guess he's supposed to be the main villain, but you don't really. When you're watching it, it seems like this movie's more about getting the Grail than defeating a villain, right? He just kind of takes on this kind of secondary role in that he plays, because he's not really out to get. He isn't out to get the Joneses. He doesn't care. He wants the Grail. That's his. So really, I think the main villain is more not so much him. It's just the whole, the Nazis. But it's just really more of a race to get the Grail, and not so much like a villain to defeat.
Yeah, I could see that. Themes of the movie: father-son relationship. We talked about that. A lot of comedic relief between those two. Henry Sr. is just kind of bumbling along, running after him. But it was fun to watch when they would stop and actually have conversations, whether it's trying to escape out of the castle or they're on the Zeppelin going back and forth, so
yeah.
They're in the car getting chased by the airplanes.
Yeah.
So
he does have his seagull moment with the birds.
Yeah.
His big moment.
Which was great. And Indy turns and has this proud dad moment. Yeah.
Okay. The Holy Grail. So this movie, that's the MacGuffin for the movie. Mm-hmm. How does it compare to the previous two with the Ark and then the stone? Is it a worthy MacGuffin?
I mean, I think it is. I mean, I think one of the things when I watch these kinds of movies, I try not to analyze them too much because it kind of, I'm there for the entertainment and it kind of impacts that. But it is. We talked in Temple of Doom, which we've talked about. That's my favorite, and the way that Spielberg wasn't very pleased with it at the time, and kind of regrets certain things and thought it was too dark and everything. And then this, I mean, it really is a bit of it has so much in common with Raiders that, it's the Nazis, it's a religious artifact. It's something that would allow the Nazis to, kind of have that, undefeatable army. And so, some of those things, I think it compared a lot for me to Raiders because of those things that were consistent in the two stories, and kind of the desert setting in parts of it and things like that. Right. So a lot of things similar to Raiders for me.
Mm-hmm. And we talked before before we did this podcast. I can't remember if it was on a previous podcast or just us talking, but Nathan, you had said that, there's it's kind of the same movie. It's a lot of similarities at least. And
yeah.
You weren't sure how you were going to like it this time.
Yeah. I do remember, like, obviously first movie's Nazis, third movie's Nazis. They're out in the desert digging. They end up in the desert. There's a scene in Raiders where they're in a canyon and he's got a bazooka and he's threatening to blow up. This scene, there's a canyon. They're up at the top and they're looking down at him.
Oh yeah.
There's a battle in a canyon basically, and a kind of a. So there were some things that made me feel like they kind of copied from the first movie, but as I rewatch, there's so many other things. We know that they wanted to put the airplane scene and it crashing into the tunnel. We had heard that was something that they wanted to put into Raiders, but they just didn't have the budget or the way to make it work, I believe. So it ended up in The Last Crusade. So I think there may have been a lot of elements and ideas in this movie that may have been, or ideas that were slated for maybe the first movie, that they're like, okay, now we have the budget, now we have the technology to kind of do these kinds of things. But, at the end of the day, and again, it's back to a Christian artifact that they're chasing after, an ark, the Holy Grail. So yeah, a lot of similarities, but in the end, I still think it stands up as its own movie. Even though there's just some of those things that I was like, they had in common.
Yeah. I think we've talked about Temple of Doom was really dark. It was the first movie it kind of was the movie that led to the PG-13 rating because it was so dark, and this seems to be a reaction to that. Like, no, we're going to make it funny and lighthearted and chase. So it's action oriented, not so, I don't know, bloody and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I think they accomplished that, and it was a fun movie to watch for sure. A lot of back and forth banter between the father and son, not as serious. I kind of see it as Lucas and Spielberg got soft.
Meaning, like,
because Raiders was pretty grim, or not grim, but edgy. Like there was a feel to it. Like people died, people got shot.
Yeah.
And chopped up by...
Almost unexpectedly. I mean, he shoots that guy in the head that's driving in the truck when they're in the bazaar. I mean, when that's not something you would... That's almost like a rated R, like, scene. You see blood splatter, and pretty much you introduce blood nowadays. That gets you a rated R movie. Yeah. You don't see anything like that in this... You see people getting shot, but you don't see blood that I can recall. Blood splatter.
Yeah. So it's, and then we had Temple of Doom, and then this is kind of like, well, we got to rein it in. We're getting too out of control, maybe.
Well, and the way that, when we were talking, you brought up how Spielberg felt about Temple of Doom. I kind of thought, was this like a knee jerk, like an overcorrection? Like, oh man, I was doing what I wanted with Raiders, Temple of Doom. We lost our way a little bit. Let's get back to safe ground. Let's get the characters back on track. And yeah, it felt a little bit like that for me too. Like a little bit safe, but awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
like, what do you say,
when I finished watching it, I wasn't that's not a thought that popped in my head. I was like, great movie, probably, but they played it safe compared to the last one. That I never even occurred to me.
I mean, they had the guy from The Color Purple reuniting with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah,
they could have gone all sorts of directions, right?
So yeah. So when you say soft, you mean you would have liked to have seen more violence, like push that envelope, like
the Raiders level,
like the Raiders level, like
where it's I can't really think of the word, but
like.
it's,
So like I think I can't remember his name, but the companion who goes into the cave, when he comes out, there's arrows gashed through his body, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you see him. People get shot in the
and
head.
Forrestal got staked by those spikes, and we see
Yeah.
him all impaled.
Yeah,
And then we saw that in Temple of Doom,
yeah,
the shish kebab thing.
yeah.
And we didn't really. Did we see some of that stuff? I don't think so.
In Last Crusade, do you see? I mean, I think it's probably implied, but I don't think you see. I mean, you don't see bugs crawling all over people.
Yeah, you see, like there at the end, you know, when the volunteers are trying to go through to get the Grail, you see some stuff there, but
you see a head get chopped off.
You see
and
a
whatever that
beheaded
sound
body.
effect is for that head rolling out. Oh my god,
bowling pin! It freaked me out.
it was a lot.
It still gives me the
like ooh,
yeah.
Somebody grab that head.
But
no blood, but you see a beheaded body with the head laying next to it. Obviously, that guy gets beheaded. You do see Sean Connery get shot in the stomach.
Yeah,
there's blood there.
True.
And then, of course, Donovan.
I think that's the most graphic part of the
his
movie.
demise
Is when he drinks out of the cup.
Yeah, which is it was a mix of practical and CGI effects when they did that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that scene was cool.
Yeah, and a callback to the Raiders, but instead of it melting, it just ages really fast.
Yeah, there's nothing more satisfying, right, than a bad guy thinking they got what they wanted.
Yeah,
and then they melt or age to death in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as far as kind of your favorite moments, I mean, there's a lot of them. I would.
Oh yeah.
What's your top 5? Or let's do top 5 favorites.
Ooh.
Kind of go
maybe
around.
a couple one at a time or something.
I'm sure we have some similar ones.
Yeah. So I like one of my favorite parts is the fireplace scene.
Yeah.
When they're spinning around and that Nazi lady turns and they smile at each other and then she yells and they pull pull it back and then anyway that scene's like kind of an old Three Stooges feel to it, like just that's a fun scene.
Yeah, definitely that one is one of mine, definitely. And the whole back and forth and then the subsequent motorcycle chase scene after that, right? And the joust scene and then the flagpole in the spokes and the motorcycle explodes and goes up. Yeah, that whole sequence is just
and I think that's one of the parts where Indiana Jones he's like so satisfied with himself, like that was the coolest thing ever. He's got this smile on his face. He looks to his dad and
he's like, wasn't that awesome? And his dad's just like, who are you? Yeah.
And he just like nods it out. Yeah, it's so good.
I mean, earlier when Indiana, he whips into his room, and then of course the guards come in, and he's like calling him Junior, and he grabs a machine gun and he shoots him. Do you think that was the first time his dad had any inclination of what the kind of violent life his son had lived? Do you think prior to that he was like, I had no idea.
I think so.
Right?
He
was
did
pretty
seem
shocked
pretty
by it.
shocked.
He was
about
just
it,
like, "What did you just do?" He just gunned down like 3 or 4 Nazis with a machine gun right in front of his dad,
like it was nothing.
and like he's just like, and like he's just like, and up until this point, how many guys had Indiana Jones probably killed, and that his dad had? So clearly, we don't think. It doesn't look like that his dad had any clue what kind of life he was living, really.
He's the absent father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could rise to that level of violence but then of course, later on, they're shooting at us. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, well, this is a new experience for me. And he's like, well, it happens to me every day, Dad.
Yeah.
People are always trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sequence is great. Yeah.
I would say my overall favorite is the opening adventure with Young Indy. I really like that.
Yeah.
That adventure there. So just we've talked about it already. So
Yeah, that was good. That's a good scene. I like the boat. I like in Venice. I like that whole sequence where they're in the library. Mm-hmm. They're following the clues. He's got the diary. They get into the tunnel, and then subsequently they get chased and they're out in Venice in the boats and that whole fat battle and fight. And then they're squeezing the boat. That's a great sequence. And then the big propeller.
Don't go in between. Go in
between.
between.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah. That's
then the rats in the tomb.
Oh my gosh. Anytime you put rats around, like it just makes you crawl like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was cool. The scene with Hitler is cool when he's there and he's got the journal and he turns around and there's Hitler and he's like, he pulls the diary from him and he's like, did I just lose the diary to Hitler?
Right.
And, of course, Hitler with his arrogance, he just signs it and hands it back. And that's always a good scene.
But again, at this point, history doesn't really know Hitler and how, brutal of a person he was. We just knew that this was like this, movement in Germany that was out in the
a political party.
A political party that was
party.
an extreme political party.
But I think kind of the, some of the platforms were there. They just hadn't started really steamrolling through people. And
But for us who do know history, when I remember seeing that scene, it did you see him portrayed on the screen anytime. You're like, oh, it makes you cringe. And they did that whole book burning scene, and it's like
oh, this is like that.
It makes you feel
feeling.
yuck. Yeah, to see it. I think they did a good job of portraying what probably history would show. He liked to do these rallies at night with the fire and all that to kind of add to that mystique. And it creeps me out. It creeps you out.
Yeah.
Another one of mine is the leap of faith when he has to do the 3 trials. So the first one was the penitent man kneels before God.
Mm-hmm.
Then take a leap of it was the words.
Walking the footprints of God or the whatever
Jehovah.
Yeah. And then the leap of faith.
Yeah.
I really like the leap of faith one. I think it's a good visual because sometimes we do have to act on faith or trust in ourselves, or if you believe in God, trust in God, and you have to just step out into the unknown and do something. And it's a very good metaphor.
Yeah.
It's
kind of lost its effect on me because I've seen it so many times, but I do remember the very first time I saw it, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And then I thought he really was walking on air, like there was some sort of invisible bridge. And then they do explain what really was happening. And you're like, oh, okay. Because I was like, how is he doing that? He can't, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was
That's
really
cool. Well, and then throughout all that, I like the back and forth, how, India, they were both saying the same things and kind of walking through each of those challenges or whatever together and saying the same things. It was it was cool the way that they filmed it. It was fun.
Good editing.
So then another one, of course, was, and again, I mean, these are just scene after scene. It just goes.
Yeah.
Is the desert battle tank scene.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was cool.
That's amazing. And again, these are stuntmen performing these stunts. There's a real guy jumping on a horse, off of a horse onto a tank and landing on it. That actually happened. That wasn't digitally created. Mm-hmm. That's like amazing. And just that he does pull out that gun and shoot those 3 Germans.
Oh, yeah.
That's
in a row.
Yeah, in a
Yeah,
row.
right
That was a
together.
pretty good scene. And boy, there was nothing more satisfying than seeing that guy seeing the bad guy in the tank go over the cliff and his body flail around.
Yeah.
That is the best.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty dark to say that was cool, but yeah.
He's a Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And then, it was a pretty poignant moment. I didn't think I didn't think Indiana had died. I mean, there's no way he had died.
The movie's not over. So.
Yeah. But when they were standing looking over the cliff and he thought he had died, that was pretty touching. And he's just like, he's gone and I never told him anything. Now that I'm older and a dad, it makes me feel like as soon as you see that scene, I'm like, kids, come gather around.
I got some stuff to tell you.
I got stuff I got to tell you. They're like, yeah, like, Dad, we've heard all of this many, many times.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I just want to make sure in case I go over a cliff
Just in
riding a
case.
tank. I've told you everything.
Yeah. Well, in that scene, I mean that scene has been replicated many times, right? The person that falls off the cliff and climbs up behind him and is like, "What are we all looking at?"
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And he's looking over and he's like, "Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, that was pretty crazy, huh? What just happened?"
And then his hat blows in at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, literally, Indiana Jones basically takes out a whole battalion of Nazis right? When you watch that
With
scene.
a horse and a satchel.
On a horse I mean, it's the whole they're bumbling thing and they're running into each other and he's causing them to kill each other. But by the time that the scene is over, it's just the four of them, right? Standing there at the edge of the cliff. Everyone else is gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another favorite of mine is I just liked Elsa until she revealed her true intentions. But I thought her part in the movie that she was helping Indy find the X marks the spots in the library, and they were on an adventure together. I really liked their chemistry back and forth. And even after she was a traitor, they still kind of had some interactions.
Yeah, they kind of reconnected
I
at the end and whatever.
I thought she was great. I was sad that she died, but at the same time, I was like, well, she's a bad guy.
Yeah.
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 like
Well,
that.
she's Austrian.
Yeah,
She wasn't
that's right.
German.
Yeah, true.
She
I liked
was-
her character.
Yeah.
I did I just look at her as like history. It's history shows on whether or not you're on the right side or the wrong side, right? And at the time, she probably was like,
Yeah.
I'm just about the Grail.
I'm just getting the Grail.
I don't
Yeah.
care about these guys. Same thing about Donovan. He's
Yeah.
like, I want immortality. So on that note, explain to me this. My understanding had been that, like, with the very first time I watched it, okay, Indiana drinks from the Grail. So does that mean he's immortal? Or does that immortality cease to exist the moment the Grail crosses the seal, or the moment he leaves the temple, if you will?
Yeah.
I never really fully quite understood that.
Yeah.
That like, or are you only immortal if you drink from the cup and you stay in the cave to protect the Grail?
Yeah.
Is that the
Which doesn't really work out well for the Nazis because
Right.
they'd have had to lured everybody in to fight.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good question.
I know-
That was my understanding too. He drank from it. His dad drank from it, so they live forever. But so doing some research, I found this is on Wikipedia.
Okay.
And there's no source that's linked to it, so I don't know if it's just this writer's opinion.
did you write it?
I might have.
This is just the writer's opinion. Some
So-
guy named Justin Brady.
Yeah. Wikipedia with no source. The Grail Knight, the guardian of the Grail, who drank from the cup of Christ during the Crusades and is immortal as long as he stays within the temple.
Okay.
So back to your point is, why would the Nazis? Maybe they didn't know that at the
Yeah,
beginning. but
yeah.
I don't
it
think they knew.
Doesn't work for them.
Yeah. I don't think anyone knew. They just thought, oh, if someone drinks from it, you're immortal. But there's a caveat, that being, well, yeah, you are, but you have to stay in the cave, and it only makes it only makes you immortal because we need someone here to guard it
Yeah, and then you got to stay here in this cave alone with
forever.
no board games, no car.
Yeah. Because
So
the Grail Knight, he's just like, he says, the price of immortality is the Grail can't cross the seal, right?
Yeah.
That, he's like that, and that he says something like, and that is the price for immortality. So as soon as Elsa picks it up and crosses does the immortality cease to exist for anyone who's drunk from it? Or because it's not like when that happened, the Grail Knight didn't instantly turn to dust.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like, well, you too have to stay behind the seal. Just because the Grail crosses it doesn't mean you cease to be immortal. But if you leave the temple, then it ceases as well.
And I bet he was so excited for somebody to get there.
He
Oh,
was.
Finally.
somebody to spell me off. And
Yeah.
and then they're like,
his-
yoink.
His
Yeah.
friend left, right? His friend
Yeah.
was found wandering the desert, and he was like 400 years old or something.
Yeah.
So he didn't die immediately, and he lived.
Oh,
life
yeah. They do
after.
say that in the
Had a little
movie.
bit of time, yeah.
They said that he was found in the desert. He's found in the desert 100, like so many years later.
Yeah. And then this guy's been there 800 plus years guarding the Grail.
So maybe it is once the Grail crosses the seal.
Or you cross the seal, the effect is done.
Well, the fact that
But he was pretty old too, so it felt like it maybe just slowed down the aging
Yeah.
or something.
I don't think it's immortality because he
Yeah.
would be a lot younger if it was.
that's a good
Yeah.
point too. So the Grail Knight that was found on the desert, he obviously was.
Yeah.
As
Unless he
long as
went in at like 90 and was like, one last crusade, and then I'm retiring. And then he got
Yeah.
stuck with that bum job.
Yeah.
So it
at
must
90.
just be, as long as the cup doesn't cross the seal, the power still is in effect. But once it is, it ceases.
But then the Grail got lost, so who knows now?
Yeah. Did it get lost after or in front of the seal? Were you bummed when you see the Grail fall? Were you like, oh,
Yeah, I was.
A little bit.
yeah,
So what do you got? Like there's a scene that, I mean, first off, she's hanging and she can see the Grail and she's like, I can almost touch it. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then he's like, forget it. And then she falls and then he kind of falls and then he does the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, does it have some kind of lure to, I don't know.
Magic.
I couldn't quite understand. All of a sudden he's just like, yeah,
It's right
I can
there.
almost touch it, Dad. And
yeah.
I don't know. What y'all think about that?
Yeah. I think with Indy, he's like, well, you're not going to reach it. I can see you're not going to reach it. So just let's
Yeah.
go. But then
She's
he's there.
slipping. She's got a glove on. He's like, give me your other hand. You're
Yeah.
falling. I'm going to.
But then he's there and he's like, I can almost reach. I think he like even touches it. And
He
kinda,
did.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like that much closer. So I think, I don't know. But my next favorite part is when the dad calls him Indiana, which he had never done throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And that kind of brought him back. And
Keeps
was like,
calling him Junior.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay, Dad's serious.
Yeah.
I got to
Yeah.
listen to him.
It's like Indiana.
snaps out of it.
He's like, dog. Oh, Indiana.
So yeah,
Here, boy.
that is an interesting. Why did I don't think it has a lure.
You think it was just him
I think-
caught up in it? Because the thing
think it's
is,
the idea.
I think as she was like, Indy, we've got it. It's ours. And she's backing over the sill. And he's like, it can't cross the sill. So like the end game is this can't go anywhere. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's
Yeah.
like, well, now everything's breaking. I think we could grab it and get out of here and
At least you have
put it
as
in a museum
yeah,
or something. Or
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
if you just ran with it, you might have made it out in time.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was a little bummed when it falls into the cliff. But I'm like, the truth is now after all the rocks and everything falls,
Yeah.
you could really send in the excavators and the archaeologists back to dig for it. They would find.
Yeah. They find it.
They could find it,
Yeah.
but I don't think they ever do.
I did want, the night that had waited there all that time, and he sees Indiana Jones come in, and you can tell that he's like, oh, all right, a good dude, and then the other two come in, and he, by his look, he can, and they've got a gun and whatever. I mean, I just wanted him to respond a little better when they drank out of the wrong cup, and
Oh yeah, that's a great.
like
one. That
he's
is-
been waiting 800 years to see that.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I think great line, but I mean, I would have been like, "Oh man, that was so great! Did you guys see that?"
That would have been pretty funny. Especially if he said like last guy who drank out of the wrong cup. It's been 800 years since I saw the last guy drink out of the wrong cup. That was awesome.
Yeah. Do you think Elsa
time.
gave Donovan the wrong cup?
Oh, we know he did. We know she did. Because she's like, as soon as Donovan dies, she says it would not be made of gold. So she knew she gave him the wrong cup.
Do you think? I thought she was like, because she was like she wasn't like, all right, here you go. She was like, this
Really
is the
looking
cup
at
of.
She was
king.
selling
Oh my
it.
Gosh,
Because she's
like
like,
you think that she was trying to
she
double
knew.
cross him?
Absolutely. Because
I-
as soon as he dies, he's like, and the knight says he chose poorly. Indiana goes to look for it, and she has a line, and she says it would not be made of gold. So she knows.
I don't know. Because when he ages, she wasn't like,
Well, she didn't
Yeah.
know that was going to happen.
sure, but
It was scared her.
I don't know.
I thought so. I wasn't sure, but I thought so because of the look on her face as he's drinking. She has this look like,
Oh yeah,
that's the wrong
she
cup. That's
totally knew it was the wrong.
But
cup.
I'm not like you. Totally convinced. But
Why would she say it would? Why would she go give him a gold cup and then the next line say it would not be made of gold?
Well, like
But she's giving.
everybody that makes some mistakes, like, oh, geez, I shouldn't
not the
have ridden
She's telling
a skateboard
Indiana
down the hill at
Yeah.
46.
Nah, she's telling
You know?
Indiana. She's giving him advice which one to pick, and he's like, "Oh, that's the cup of a. That's the." She knew.
Interesting.
Yeah, she totally.
I didn't get it. I thought she was just snapping out of
she's
it.
sly like that.
Yeah, she didn't want Donovan. She wanted the cup. She didn't want Donovan to have it. She doesn't like the Nazis either. She wanted the cup just for herself too. And that gets revealed right then and there.
But she does
At the
say,
end.
"Indy, we've got it. Let's go."
Well, yeah, because exactly, that's my point. She wanted the cup.
With Indy.
Well, I mean, Indy is just part of the package, whether he comes or not.
I don't know that she was that calculated, but that's my view, I guess.
So you think when she says it would not be made out of gold, she just says that arbitrarily for
I
no
say
reason?
the way that she looks at that cup, she's like, "Let me pick it. I'm the expert here. Let me pick it." And when she picks it up, the look on her face, I'm like, she all in thinks this is it.
No. That's why she said, "Let me." He's like, "I'm no historian. I don't know which one to pick." And she's like, "Let me pick it." And she's just selling it. She goes and she looks and she gets the one that's the most ornate one. And she's like, "Oh yeah, this is it. Have fun." And and then
I didn't follow that. Agree to disagree, I guess.
and then her very next line is it would not. Why would she go pick a gold cup? And then the very next line be like, "It would not be made out of gold."
Because she just watched a guy die for 30 seconds.
I think
and
it's
then she
'cause
was
she-
like, she wasn't like, this is all part of my plan.
Why
she was
would
like,
she
holy
tell-
crap.
There's
hey, you know what?
There's no reason for think of it from the person who's writing the movie, right? There's no other reason for them to add that line unless they're trying
Except that she learned from it. Like,
Except she's
no,
trying to-
you're right. He's a king, but this is a carpenter. I totally missed it. Here
But
you
Harrison
go.
Ford is the archaeologist. Why would she need to explain to him what he just saw? Why would she say, hey, it wouldn't be made out of gold?
Well,
It's not
because
like-
there's millions of people watching the movie, right?
He's in the room.
it's
He would already
exposition.
know that. Well, that's my point. She's trying, the writers put that in so that we would understand that she was in on it, that she did that on purpose.
Check your unverified
Check
Wikipedia source.
no links.
Yeah, you're not going to talk me into it.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. So it's still up for debate. Still unanswered.
Not in my mind. It's already answered.
All right. So some of my least favorite stuff. I didn't like Donovan as the villain, like I've said earlier. Similarities between Raiders and Last Crusade. We talked about that. Nazis, the desert, really Christian artifact. And then I think the story elements that really didn't go anywhere. The Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword. What was their purpose? I mean, they did stuff, but why were they there? I don't know.
That's on my list too. It was kind of like there for a minute. They were, and you've seen these types of groups in movies in the past. You know, the keeper of the whatever, and like they about kill each other. And then he's like, you're a good dude. Here's where your dad is.
Yeah.
And I'll see you around.
Drop me off here and I'll tell you.
Drop me off at the dock.
Yeah.
And that was one of mine as well.
Sorry, guys, but you go on Reddit, everyone says what I'm saying.
Reddit.
That's fine. Reddit has a lot of things on it.
That's just the first play, and then everyone is like, yeah, she totally knew.
Yeah.
So do you have any story elements that are your least favorite? Or parts of the movie that are your least favorite?
No.
You liked it all?
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great movie. Again, and this is just nitpicky stuff, and it's the first thing I can think of is like they're in the catacombs, right? And it's supposed to be like oil, right? And he's walking around with a torch on fire, and you can literally see flames dropping into the water, and you're like, well, come on. And then later someone just tosses a match in, and it all goes up in flames. Yeah. That's nitpicky.
Okay. For me, another one for me was the side trip to Berlin when they meet Hitler. I map quested it, or map quest stuff anymore.
Oh, to see the map.
Google
Get
Maps
there on one
to see
one
how
gallon
far
of
it
gas.
would get to get
Well,
there.
it's 450 miles by motorcycle, and maps listed as an 8-hour car trip modern day with highways and freeways. So I don't know. I understand the need to get the diary, but it just seemed like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And what was the purpose? Like, why did it have to leave and then come back? It just kind of added more.
Yeah.
Like, I think they wanted to get a Hitler cameo in.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
But it was a good cameo. A good scene anyway. We talked about that, but I don't know. Nitpicky again. Anything else? Any other things that bugged you or didn't sit with you? Oh, and then another story element is Sala getting the camels. Like when the desert fight with the tank, he's like, I got to get these camels to pay off the car my brother's car that blew up. It's like, okay. I don't know.
Like, yeah, that seems like low on the priority list at the time.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything else. I think, I mentioned mine. I didn't have anything else that really stood out.
Okay. I thought the practical effects were weak.
You didn't like that aging?
I think
gotta
that
be
was one
more
of the better
specific.
ones. Yeah. The airplane in the tunnel.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the tunnel's like a freeway where there's a car and an airplane going down the
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you're saying all these things. It's interesting that you're picking on these things, and you've got Crystal Skull.
It's coming up.
And you've got Crystal Skull and you were saying, oh, yeah, the stuff in Crystal Skull was great.
Well, when I watch it, if I don't like it, I'll make a note of it.
Yeah.
The tank crashing, obviously a model. Like way too obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And his hands.
Yeah, but I was focused on the guy.
His hand.
Like,
well, obviously, when he hits the bottom, it's like a human being's hands wouldn't be glued to because the body is permanently like glued to the back of that tank, the gun, and you can see it when it hits. His body flips, but of course, it would not stick to the tank. But
And I say that because we have, George Lucas. ILM worked on this, and ILM is great for practical effects, right? Star Wars, the first Indiana Jones, all that stuff. They are really awesome, but this just seemed kind of weak. So, and then the circular blades that cuts people's heads off.
That was high tech, man.
Obviously, photoshopped in or whatever they did.
Yeah,
just seemed different. But those are nitpicky. But those are my least favorite stuff. Anything else as far as things that didn't sit well with you?
I mean, I think the only other thing is just that it was. I mean, actually, I don't know. I mean, the relationship. There's always going to be a relationship. He's always got somebody to play off of. That's kind of, that's a hallmark here. And so, bringing in Sean Connery was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt a little bit. There's just those similarities to Raiders that in rewatching it, I'm like, and rewatching them in kind of such close proximity, I was like, oh yeah, it kind of is a similar story. Not that bugs me. I didn't care about it with The Force Awakens and things
True.
like that. I like it, but
I
yeah,
can agree with that.
little bit.
Okay. Final thoughts, Nathan.
Great movie.
Still on Reddit?
No, I'm reading the script,
Oh,
and it clearly says in the script.
I still don't buy it.
I know you don't.
But I do appreciate that you've been researching it for 10
Well,
minutes.
I've never ever heard anyone ever even question that. I've never even heard anyone assume or think that she didn't do it. So I'm kind of like in a mind fog that you both, and because you think the same thing.
I don't like Hitch either, so I guess I'm not
do you think the
on
same
track
thing?
here.
I think it's not defined. I think possibly it's not like set in stone. I think maybe, but at the same time,
Yeah, I've never even.
I see Blake's point.
I've never
It's
even.
kind of a cop out answer, but that's kind of like I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
But I think it's
I don't
possible.
think either way it's a pivotal
No.
story point.
No.
So
But yeah, I mean, like I've just have never had anyone think that she was like. They didn't.
Well, I
think
never
that.
thought that till this rewatch.
Yeah, I didn't.
Because then I
think
saw that look in her face. I was like, did she know that was the wrong cup? I don't
Yeah.
know,
she's
maybe.
pretty into the cup. That's
So-
all
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like she's not like
So up until
calculating.
the last week
Yeah.
when I watched it, I was like, yeah, she didn't know.
Yeah. So in the script, there's like there's what they say, and then there's like bylines like, and this person looks at this person and winks, and this and like, so that's all in the script where it
She
says,
winks. At Indy.
yeah, she looks at him. I won't read it because you guys don't want me to. But
I don't want you to.
yeah, I know you don't want me to.
I don't really
So
care.
I know you don't care. So, but it's in the script that was.
But she doesn't wink.
But she doesn't.
Yeah,
So-
it says. Well, you're gonna
No,
make me.
in the movie, she doesn't turn and wink.
Yeah.
She doesn't even look at Indiana
It's-
Jones. She goes up to the Grail and she grabs it and looks.
if
at
you're
it
gonna
and says,
if you're gonna keep
this is it.
you can't keep saying I'm gonna argue that you're wrong, but don't provide the evidence.
No,
that
I'm-
I'm like.
But there's no winking in the movie.
But
Regardless of the
in the script,
Okay.
I didn't say wink. I mean, do you want me to read what
No,
it says?
no.
Okay,
Let's move on.
Yeah,
Let's move on.
yeah. Let's move on. Yeah.
All right. So let's rank it compared to the 4 movies that are out: Temple of Doom, Raiders, Last Crusade, Crystal Skull. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So last week I had Temple of Doom first, Crystal Skull second.
No.
Yeah.
You still had Crystal Skull second
Yeah.
last week? Okay.
Because we hadn't watched that one yet, so it was still it wasn't going to move.
Yeah.
Unless I really felt the ones we did watch were so amazing, which I don't at this point. So Temple of Doom, Crystal Skull, this one, and then Raiders was my ranking last week. And this week, Temple of Doom, Crystal Skull, Raiders, Last Crusade is last.
So why is Last Crusade like last? Out of the 4, why is what is the Last Crusade not doing for you?
I think it goes back to it's the grittiness of it isn't there as I saw in Temple of Doom and Raiders. It seems more like a kid's movie as opposed to an adult adventure.
And Crystal Skull is more gritty?
We'll find out.
But you're keeping Crystal Skull at 2, so you obviously are basing that on your what you do remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all based off what I remember. Well, these 2 I've recently watched, recently have formed new opinions.
So take Crystal Skull out and rank the first 3.
Temple of Doom, Raiders, Last Crusade.
Okay. So it doesn't change.
And I'm not saying I don't like Last Crusade.
No, I
I'm
know.
just saying it's
Of the 4, yeah.
Fourth.
You're ranking
Yeah.
them, and the one that you like the most to the one you like the least. Right, but you still like all 4.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Blake, we know where you're
Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, Raiders, Crystal Skull. So I like this one. It had, yeah. Again, it's probably partly from when I saw it, and I saw it in the theater, and Raiders I did not see in the theater, but it moved faster. It's got a little bit more like the comedies, just hitting on all cylinders. Everything. It's a fun ride. I watch it more. I watch Temple of Doom the most, Last Crusade second, Raiders third. So that's my list.
Okay.
I had gotten kind of tired of this one because I think when I first saw it, it was my favorite. I mean, when you think about it, when you're like, I feel like watching an Indiana Jones movie. Historically, this was the one that I would pop in, and I think it's just because when you're going to have have it on, and it's just going to kind of be in the background. You know, you're going to be getting up and doing other things, making dinner, whatever. You just know that it's entertaining from the moment, from point A to the end. It's just the pacing. It's just goes and goes and goes. So I did kind of at some point kind of get probably tired of it because I had watched it so often, and I never watched Temple of Doom. And Raiders, I didn't ever really watch because I was like, well, it's the original, it's the oldest, and it's, it is filmed in a more basic level. There's not as many scenes. There's just not a lot of There's just less dialogue. It's a shorter. I'm assuming it's a shorter movie, but it just kind of there's really the third acts move pretty quickly, where this one just seems like there's just a lot more to see, and but. After rewatching it again, and of course comparing to all three of them again, gosh, man, it's hard. I mean, I put the first three just kind of, they're so, I mean, any one of them could be 1, 2, and 3 in my opinion. It's just, it's
but
hard.
If you had to rank them, what would you rank?
It's just so hard. I guess I think as a total package, I guess I'd have to put Last Crusade as 1. And I probably would put Raiders 2, Temple 3. That's how I would do it.
Okay.
But gosh, it's so hard for me.
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah.
I love all three. They each and I'm not putting Raiders above Temple because I necessarily think Raiders is better than Temple. It's just kind of like the Last Crusade is just done so well. That, I mean, I put it at 1. Raiders, I'm putting it 2 because it's the first one, so it's the nostalgia. It's just like it's the one that
laid the groundwork.
But I like 3 just as well.
And I'm ranking mine. I'm trying to get nostalgia out of it.
Yeah.
Because for like you, I saw Last Crusade in theaters, and this is the best one. I really love this one. It's awesome. But as I got away from that, it's just nostalgia. I remember liking this one a lot, so it's the best one. Same with Raiders. So as I'm doing this rewatch, I'm trying to get away from that and just being boom, individual.
Yeah, I can understand that. But to me, nostalgia is calls to that very thing of that. Why did I like this movie? So when I say nostalgia, it's not just because the nostalgia of it is when I saw it, it was a great movie. Right? It wasn't like, oh, I have to like it because it was the first one. It's like the nostalgia is like it is its own stands on its own merits, and that's everything that was great about the movie.
And it's kind of hard to cut that out because when I'm watching Temple of Doom, I'm like, oh man, this is when the heart comes out, and I remember sitting in the theater thinking, and it's really hard because the experience is. It's not the movie; it's everything around the movie that is part of the movie now. You know,
so it was great hard. Then, and you still think it's great now, and so it's nostalgic, but that's not why you're picking it.
Yeah,
you're picking it because it was really good.
Yeah, was really good.
Yeah,
it isn't really good.
Yeah, well,
but that's the hard part because it is good because I'm just like.
For Blake,
this is it
because Temple is his number 1. Yeah. So it is. For him, it is.
That is hard though.
Yeah, I don't think there's any wrong answer for ranking. It's just fun to do.
No. Yeah, for real.
So,
unless you have Crystal Skull in the top.
I knew that was coming.
I can't wait to watch it. Now I
Yeah.
have not watched it. I haven't watched it in a few years, and
Take notes.
and you know what's nice is my box set. Every one of the discs was scratched, but I don't think this one's scratched.
Good.
So I'll be able to watch it clean.
Have you even broken the seal on the case? Did you have even opened it since you bought it?
Good thing is they're all on Disney Plus.
That's right. That's right. I don't even have a problem.
I think I got this. I think I got it for a Christmas gift, and I was like, "Oh, thanks, everybody!" Crystal Skull. Great.
Well, I am super curious to hear what you guys have to say after rewatching it.
See, when I first saw it, I really liked
Yeah,
it,
see?
and then I rented it, or we bought it, and then I watched it again. I'm like, it's a little tedious to watch or whatever. And so, but then I haven't watched it in a while, so I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah. It'd be funny if you
We'll
guys
see.
liked it more and I liked it
If
less.
I'm like,
Yeah, I don't.
you were right, Justin, and you're like, no,
No.
I was not right.
This movie sucks.
Says so
It doesn't
on
suck.
Wikipedia.
Again, it doesn't suck.
Right.
It's an Indiana Jones movie. It's a great movie. It's
Yeah.
just out of the 4. It's number 4. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all.
Right.
It's funny because Chat GPT says
Yeah.
Last Crusade is the best one.
That's right.
What did you say? So Last Crusade, or no? Chat GPT says Last Crusade is the best one. I thought it said Crystal Skull was the best one.
No, it says, don't you remember? It said
I
Temple
thought
of
that-
Doom was the best one, and only one person
Is
likes
this the one that
Crystal
you?
You set that up though. There's no way
No.
Chat GPT would mention my name.
It would if you told it to.
It would.
But weren't you saying at the beginning of this podcast that Crystal Skull is the one that made the most money?
Right.
So do you think that was because it was like, oh, Indiana Jones is back, so it drew a bigger crowd?
Yeah. I think it's the same reason why Force Awakens made over $2 billion or whatever it was.
Yeah, because it's just like,
Oh, it's back.
it's back.
Yeah.
So everyone ran to the theaters to see it because it was like no one thought that there would be a fifth. Probably weren't sure if there'd ever be a fifth Indiana Jones movie, and the first 3 were so great. And people who didn't rush to see it in the theaters, but eventually did see them at home, VHS, they're all running to the theaters
Yeah.
to see it for the first time.
Well, and Crystal Skull made a ton of money. It had a huge opening, and but I don't know. I think because of that, because people were like, "Oh my gosh, it's back," and they were so good, and
Yeah. I'll have to look at it and see what the numbers were
yeah.
for the next episode. Yeah, so our next episode is watching Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and talking about it, talking about what we like, what we don't like, then ranking it again as we do. And this is all in preparation for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which comes out in 15 days, approximately. And then we'll watch that and do the same thing. So
can't believe we're doing
I
this.
know it's getting closer.
This is great.
So yeah, subscribe to our podcast, like the video, comment on the video, let us know what you think of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where it ranks on your list, your personal list, and we'll talk to you and kind of go back and forth with it, and let us know if you think Elsa set it up for Donovan to drink out of the cup or not. It's a hot topic on this podcast.
I guess.
No, not really.
And if you have evidence to the contrary, let us know in the comments. So,
Just gotta Google it.
I'm sure if I chat GPT it,
I'm sure
I'll
it
get
will
the answer
say
that I
whatever.
need.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll say exactly what you
I wonder
wanted
what
to
it
say.
would say.
So I want to thank you guys for listening. And by listening to this podcast, you have chosen wisely.
Hey.
Well played.